Picture a herd of woolly mammoths moving across the Ice Age tundra, their breath rising in clouds against a pale winter sky. To modern eyes, they look almost peaceful, gentle giants grazing on frozen grass. But for early humans living 20 or 30,000 years ago, a mammoth represented one of the most dangerous and most valuable challenges they could ever face. An adult bull could weigh 6 tons, stand well over 3 meters tall, and crush a grown man without even trying. And yet, again and again, small bands of hunters chose to face that risk. The question is not whether mammoth hunting was dangerous. The evidence makes that very clear, but how humans with only stone and wood managed to succeed at all. To understand the risk, you have to understand the animal. Mammoths were highly social, intelligent, and protective. Much like modern elephants, matriarchs led family groups and would defend calves aggressively. A threatened mammoth could charge at speeds humans could not outrun, and a single blow from a trunk or tusk could break bones instantly. Cold environments made things worse. Hunters wearing heavy hides for warmth had less speed and agility, while the flat, icy tundra offered little cover to hide behind. Unlike hunting deer or horses, there was no margin for a bad throw or a missed escape route. This wasn't a fair fight, and early humans knew it. Survival depended less on courage than on planning. Archaeological evidence suggests that successful mammoth hunts were rarely spontaneous. They were carefully organized group efforts, discussed and planned in advance, much like a military operation. Hunting parties would study herd movement, weather, and terrain for days before attempting an approach. Bigger was not better. Most groups seem to have targeted young, old, sick, or isolated individuals rather than a strong adult bull, since these animals were far less likely to fight back effectively. Cooperation was essential. A lone hunter had almost no chance, but a coordinated team with defined roles could tip the odds in their favor. This is where human intelligence, rather than brute strength, became the deciding factor. One of the most effective strategies was using the landscape itself as a weapon. Hunters often tried to drive a mammoth toward natural hazards such as steep ravines, bogs, or riverbanks, where its massive weight became a liability instead of an advantage. A mammoth stuck in soft mud or struggling on uneven ground was suddenly vulnerable in ways it wasn't on open, flat terrain. Some researchers argue that certain mammoth remains found clustered near cliffs or marshy areas hint at exactly this kind of strategic herding. It's a reminder that early humans weren't simply attacking with spears and hoping for the best. They were engineering the encounter, using geography to do work that muscles alone never could. Weapons mattered too, but not in the way movies often suggest. Early hunters weren't running up and stabbing a mammoth at close range. Wooden spears, sometimes fire-hardened or tipped with stone points, were primarily thrown or used to deliver repeated wounds from a safer distance, weakening the animal over time rather than killing it in one blow. Some researchers believe hunters aimed for soft areas like the belly, throat, or leg tendons to reduce mobility. This was less like a single dramatic kill and more like a slow, exhausting process that could stretch over hours, sometimes even requiring hunters to track a wounded animal for a day or more before it was safe enough to approach again. The payoff for all this risk was enormous, which is exactly why humans kept doing it. A single mammoth could provide meat to feed dozens of people for weeks, along with fat for fuel, hide for shelter and clothing, and bones and tusks for tools, weapons, and even structural beams for huts. Some Ice Age dwellings uncovered by archaeologists were literally built from mammoth bone frameworks. In a world where calories and resources were scarce and winters could be brutal, one successful hunt could mean the difference between a community thriving or starving. That calculation, massive risk against massive reward, is central to why mammoth hunting became such an important, if dangerous, part of Ice Age survival. Of course, not every hunt ended in success. Injuries were common, and serious ones could be a death sentence in a world without modern medicine. Some skeletal remains from this period show healed fractures consistent with large animal encounters, suggesting survivors carried the physical evidence of these hunts for the rest of their lives. Communities likely lost hunters occasionally, and that loss would have been deeply felt, both emotionally and practically, in small populations where every skilled adult mattered. This is likely one reason hunting parties relied so heavily on strategy over aggression. The cost of failure wasn't just an empty larder, it was the potential loss of a father, a daughter, a friend, someone the whole group depended on. It's telling that mammoths appear so often in Ice Age cave art, painted with clear detail and, in some cases, with spears drawn near their bodies. These images weren't just records of what people ate. They likely reflected respect, memory, and perhaps even a kind of storytelling passed down through generations, celebrating both the danger and the skill involved. Hunting a woolly mammoth was never a guaranteed victory. It required intelligence, teamwork, patience, and no small amount of nerve. In many ways, it's an early example of something deeply human, facing an opponent far stronger than ourselves and overcoming it not through force but through cooperation, planning, and the willingness to take a calculated risk.